In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make indie pop rock music. And to do that, I remade Sofia by Clairo, and I'll break down my remake of the song's elements, the sounds of those elements, the mixing, the structure and arrangement, all that jazz. So hopefully by the end of this tutorial, you can make a song in a similar indie pop rock style to this one. Set the tempo around 110 to 115 BPM. Start off by getting a guitar. Now there's two ways you could go about this. You could either just like play the guitar yourself and record that, or if you can't play the guitar like myself, you can look for samples like this on various websites like Splice, which is paid for, or Looperman, which is completely free. I use both a lot and they give really good results for stuff like this. Next, make some MIDI chords from that guitar. These are just the exact same chords from the guitar, and I just put them into some airy atmospheric synth sounds. For the sounds in particular, I use 3 Vital presets over here, each from MHA's Soundbanks Volume 3 and 2. Here's this one as well, and this one as well. So for the sounds of these chords in particular, make sure they're very airy, atmospheric, calm synths that you could just float in the background of the track. For the mixing, all I did is put this standard EQ on here, taking out a great chunk of the lows because we're going to have a very prominent bass later, and if we kept the lows of this, it would counteract with that bass and make it sound muddy and weird in the mix, and we don't want that, so that's why we take out all these lows over here. Next, chop up those chords into a VST guitar. Going up here and clicking the chop feature, and with these settings it gave me this over here. Helps to really keep the rhythm going and add some extra elements in the track to help with rhythm and filling up the mix and stuff like that. I use 2 electric guitar presets from Flex to accomplish this sound. I use this one over here and this one down here. And for the mixing, I took a similar approach from the chords from earlier, taking out a great chunk of the lows, but I did more of the lows over here. And I took down a huge amount of the highs as well, just to make it a really muffled guitar sound and something that we could just fit in the background. So without this band brought all the way down here, as you hear, it's like very loud and annoying, but when you muffle it down, it's softer and you can fit it in the background more. Next, take the bass notes of those chords and put it into some bass presets. And by the bass notes, I just mean like the root notes of what these chords actually are. So for example, if this is an F chord over here, you're going to have F for the bass note. Similarly, if this is a G chord over here, you're going to have a G for the bass note or root note. And do that for all these chords over here as well, with a chop version of them, by the way, and put them into a bass that sounds something along the lines of this. Having the chop version of the bass notes over here will help greatly with keeping the rhythm going and filling up more of the mix in the background. I use 2 Flex bass guitar presets to accomplish this sound. I use this one over here and this one as well. Very healthy mix of electric and acoustic sounding bass guitars over here. And for the mixing, I put 2 avenues of distortion on here. I put a Fruity Blood overdrive on here, nothing done to it, just the preset thrown in here, just to really help amplify the sound, not really to distort it as much, but just to really help give some extra intensity to the overall essence of the sound. And then I put a Fruity Fast Dist on here, and now this is where you really get that distorted heavy rock feel. Just a default preset thrown in here, but I also just toned down the mix a great ton to 15%. Just so it's not too harsh of a distortion, just so that we get that little distorted edge to it without it and with it. So it's a little textural thing. It's not really meant to be too much of a distorted feel. Next, I just have a chugging electric guitar in the background. This is just a random sample I found on Splice that I pitched. I chopped it up into the sections of the chords and I pitched it in order to just fit with the chords over here, as you see. Nothing too crazy. It helps to really keep the rhythm going and add some extra indie rock texture to the background. Now for the drums. I have this kick. It's a light thumping acoustic kick with this snare. It's a very lo-fi-ish, typical indie type snare. And I put them into a pattern that sounds like this. Very typical like pop music standard pattern. And then I have a hi-hat that I just put in a repeating pattern like this. And a drum loop in the background as well, just to add some extra texture. And all together, the drum loop sounds like this. This is where you really stray away from the rock feel and you really get that indie feel. You have a real like pop rock feel with all these other elements up here, but then you get to the drums and that's where you really hone in on that indie feel more than ever. And for the mixing, all I put on these drums is a Fruity Blood overdrive just to really give some extra intensity to the drums. Again, not for distortion, just for extra intensity in the essence and volume. Now for the structure and arrangement of this track, for the sake of this tutorial, I only remade this small portion over here and then repeated it over and over again. However, you can kind of just get away with doing that. Just have like a very minimalist intro over here, just introducing the track with like the guitar loop. And then for the rest of the track, you can kind of get away with just doing everything all together at the same time. Obviously adding your own little bits of variance here and there, but I didn't do any of that. I just focused on the simple bare bones with the guitar loop over here, the chopped chords, the synth chords, the chopped bass, the background electric guitar, and the full drum loop over here as well. So here's what the full track looks like over here. And after all that, here's the final result.